Welcome to this evening's membership information session. With it being still back to school time, we are shining a spotlight on our education community partners. It's starting to cool off, so it is starting to feel a little bit more like fall and a little bit less like summer break. My name is Audra Morris, and I am the membership chair for Impact Austin. I joined Impact Austin last summer and started participating very heavily in the works of the women of Impact Austin. The concept of collective giving was very, very appealing to me. So I participated in a couple of the grant review committee cycles in the fall and spring, and then the fall again of this year, and then also was started doing the membership chair. I love the grant review, but I realized that the way to give more money to our recipients is to have increased members. So that's why I got so excited to be called to help with the membership. So I'm very excited to do that. And so welcome everybody to our membership info session again. We are talking about a great organization called BookSpring, and y'all are going to learn more about them this evening. A little bit about Impact Austin. We are a women's collective giving group, which means that we pool our dues, whether they be paid on an annual basis or on a month-to-month basis, like I do, and we give that money away twice a year to about 4 different organizations, and it's just wonderful. I always like to say about collective giving that when I make a contribution, it's like throwing a pebble into a pond, but with collective giving, it's like throwing a boulder, and the ripple effects can absolutely change everything, including the size of the pond and the size of the shore around the pond. So that's what I love about collective giving, is the impact that all of our resources pulled together. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce a couple of our folks. We have got 2 great Impact Austin members joining us tonight who are very closely associated to BookSpring. We've got Kalia Rourke, who is been a member of Impact Austin, I think forever. She was part of one of the first grant review cycles, one of the first social innovation grants, or what we call SIGs, S-I-G. She is described as an energetic and talented connector. And I think that that is so true. She's just a professional philanthropist. She has served on the board, and she's been a part of Impact Austin. She joined in 2005, which made her class of 2006. We've got Risé, Candelaria joining us too. She, like me, joined last year in his class of 2021. And dove right in. She is a speech instructor at ACC and department chair. She's also co-chairing the Health and Wellbeing Grant Review Committee for this cycle, and is also on the Strategic Planning Committee. She is a very motivated and active volunteer and loves to be, we couldn't figure out if it was curiously creative or creatively curious, but that is our Risé. They are both, Risé and Kalí are both board members of BookSpring. So I am going to turn it over to Kalí and let her go ahead and introduce herself, and then talk a little bit more about BookSpring.
Hi, my name is Kalia Rourke, and I've been a member of Impact Austin since 2005. When I picked up a newspaper and read that the group was having an informational meeting near me. After a terrific run leading the PTA at our daughter's middle school, I'd been asked to be the board president of a nonprofit that would become Seedling Mentoring. I had drunk the Kool-Aid, as they say, experiencing firsthand what an individual can accomplish with a plan and the help of the dedicated people who share the vision. Impact Austin was something I was ready for. I heard Rebecca Powers speak that night. Now, I was just looking forward to a good glass of wine and the opportunity to meet these women who are dedicated to making a difference in their community. Impact Austin was a young organization and had only given out a few grants at that point. Rebecca Powers was a revelation. She explained that Impact Austin was not merely a way for us to increase and amplify our individual giving. She assured us that they would teach us how to be better philanthropists. I wrote that first check and I've never looked back. I joined grant review committees nearly every year, assisted in marketing, social media, and even served on the Impact Austin board. The knowledge and skills I gained through involvement with the grant process were treasures that I brought with me to every nonprofit I worked with, enhancing my board and committee service with each of them, because Impact Austin had taught me what effective programs and nonprofits look like. Over my years of Impact Austin membership, I've met lifelong friends, found mentors and mentees, and met sheroes who inspire me and challenge me to do good better. Even giving to the very limit of my ability for the rest of my life, I could never match the over $7 million in grants that Impact Austin has achieved. That is truly making an impact, and I'm so proud to continue to be a part of it. So on to tonight's program. In 2016, BookSpring's executive director, Emily Chikini, and I met for lunch to discuss our mutual love of children and literacy. And we found the perfect way for me to serve BookSpring by joining the board. Throughout my 3-year term, I was continually amazed by the scope of BookSpring's research-based programs that literally put books into the hands of children who lack them. BookSpring is one of the most effective and collaborative nonprofits I've ever worked with, and it is no surprise to me that it continues to flourish, even with the challenges presented by the pandemic. I'm sure our next speaker tonight had much to do with that. I'd like to introduce you to my fellow Impact Austin member, a current BookSpring board member, and a volunteer extraordinaire, Risé Candelaria.
All right. Hello, ladies. It is so very nice to meet you and to get to have the opportunity to spend this evening sharing a little bit about two of the things closest, or I should say nearest and dearest to my heart, Impact Austin and BookSpring, an amazing nonprofit I've had the opportunity to work with over the last few years, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you a little bit about my story and how I became involved with Impact Austin. So I've always been a lifelong volunteer, and I've decided that maybe the time had come, because I couldn't be in all the places and do all the things, that it might be time to grow and evolve as a volunteer. In other words, it was time to become a philanthropist, time to put my money and invest in these organizations. But when you live in a city like Austin, how do you choose just one? How do you decide which organization gets your dollars? Well, that's when Kalia Rourke connected me with Impact Austin, an amazing organization that allows us to do so many good things in our lovely community and to have a huge amount of impact by reaching as many people as we possibly can and as many organizations as we possibly can as well. So as Audra told you earlier, I was fascinated with Impact Austin and decided to make the decision to join in late 2020. So you could call me a member of the class of 2021. So fairly new, but I couldn't help but jumping in the deep end. So in my time so far, I've had the privilege of being on the strategic planning committee, which was responsible for the revision and extension of our current strategic plan. Not a small feat, but I've also had a great opportunity to serve on at least 2 different grant review committees. And as you also learned, I'm now the co-chair of the Health and Wellbeing Grant Review Committee as well. So I'm really excited to have that, have this role. And I'm even more excited that we're at the site visit part of our journey, because this means now we get to have intimate interviews with our eligible nonprofits and to learn even more as we make our final decisions about who will receive our hard-earned dollars. So the other interesting aspect about my story in Impact Austin is that I've also had the opportunity to use my speaking skills quite a bit. I was fortunate enough to be a moderator for our Learning How to Give event that was held last year. And you could say that that's also kind of chimed in and really spoken to a lot of the volunteer work that I've also been able to do here. So you can also use those amazing skills that you have and bring them to the table to share with others. And of course, use those opportunities to do things we all want to do, to help those nonprofits, but also to network with some amazing and talented and educated women here in our organization. So that brings me to my story as far as another aspect that we don't often talk about, which is the collective giving. And like Audra, I also am a monthly contributor, which isn't actually not a bad thing. As much as I would love to be able to write that check at the beginning of the year, it actually makes a more meaningful impact to me knowing that my monthly contribution is a subtle reminder of the good and hard work that I'm doing and the effort that has paid off for others. So again, there's no way that in any case that you can't make a good contribution that's comfortable at your level. And again, when you're a young professional, you've got lots of other commitments, lots of other things that you're also trying to do. And hey, it's an easy and affordable way to still feel like you're a big part of an important organization. And then comes my story with BookSpring. How did I get there? Well, thanks to a board internship program through the Junior League of Austin, I was exposed to this lovely nonprofit, which truly speaks to who I am, number one, as an educator, as a professor at ACC, but also more than anything, as a lover of books and a lover of reading. In fact, my entire house is surrounded with books. And I couldn't imagine a world where children didn't have that same exposure, where they didn't have the opportunity to learn to read, or hey, having that time to read one-on-one with their parents or their family members. Again, literacy was such a vital and important goal for me personally, but also to share with others, especially because that literacy then ties into success in the classroom. Again, worlds collide when they can. So I've been active for about at least 3 years now, and I'm happy that I'm starting a 4th year. And in that time, a lot of my time has spent becoming intimate with the programs. So I was happy to chair the programs committee for the last couple of years and to really learn about all of the exciting things that BookSpring does, which Emily Chikini will tell you about later this evening. But also, I've now grown into the part of becoming the board secretary. So believe it or not, all of those note-taking skills that I used in school all those years have really come in handy. No small feat taking notes for major board meetings. The other thing that I've learned and that I love the most is that BookSpring really takes a hard look at literacy, the value that it has for students, and definitely finds ways to put books in the hands of children, but goes beyond that too. They help parents develop the love of reading within their children. And overall, that means an increased amount of quality time that families are spending doing the thing that we love most. And that is reading books, all kinds of books, books that speak to their culture, their language, or in some cases, other hobbies and passions that they have. So who could beat that? And the other best part of it is that they don't just stick within our beautiful city of Austin. The nice thing about BookSpring is that they go all over the Austin area, helping families and schools from here to Hayes County, Bastrop, you name it. We're probably there spreading the love of books. So with that being said, before I go too far into BookSpring and their story, let's hear it from an expert. Let me introduce you to Emily Chicchini. Emily Chicchini has been the executive director of BookSpring for over 6 years now. She has over 30 years of experience in the nonprofit and education sectors. And so that makes BookSpring the perfect fit, given its strong tradition of promoting literacy and reading in the home. I'm proud to say that Emily recently graduated with her PhD from the University of Texas at Austin in a subject near and dear to my heart, organizational communication and technology. And this now informs how BookSpring is able to continue to achieve its mission, with the goal of building literacy in children and families through healthcare, education, and community outreach. And with that, I'll turn it over to Emily.
Thank you, Risé, and thank you, Kalí. First of all, before I even get into BookSpring, I just want to say how much of an impact both of you have made, not only on BookSpring, but on me personally. And I think one of the things that I like the most about Impact Austin, having been in Austin since about the early 90s and been involved in many nonprofits, a lot of arts nonprofits that work with children with disabilities and literacy, and definitely words all the time. This network of women that we have that work together in the philanthropic sector, rather, whether you're a grantor or a grantee, we really create a safety net for each other. And both Kalí and Risé, you both have given me personally so much value with your honesty, your candor, your ideas, your enthusiasm. And I'm kind of speechless because it's so wonderful to see you both together to celebrate Impact Austin and BookSpring, which has been such a wonderful part of all our lives, I think. So let me tell you a little bit about BookSpring, and I do have a little PowerPoint that I'll pull up to share with you. If I can get this going, that, and play from the start. Is that good? Everybody can see that? So as Risé so elegantly said, our mission is to build early literacy in children and families through healthcare, education, and the community. So this organization has been around for almost 50 years in Austin, Texas. We started off very grassroots with teachers who noticed that their kids did not have books at home to read. And a number of individuals came together, and it was a volunteer organization until the late 80s. And then it got some federal funding and grew out of these two affiliates of national organizations, one of whom you've probably heard of called Reading is Fundamental, and another one called Reach Out and Read. And both those organizations are still active nationally, and we are partners with them, but we are no longer formal affiliates because we merged in 2008 to become BookSpring. So we are a unique Austin nonprofit. We're located here. We don't have any major headquarters anyplace else, but we partner with schools and childcare centers and other nonprofits in order to get our books into the hands of families and kids that need them most. So this is a really wonderful method. It's kind of a B2B method of delivering our services, and it allows us to do really remarkable things. And right now, since COVID, you know, now more than ever, kids need books at home. Kids have been stuck at home. We've been quarantined. Sometimes you get to go to school and come back. Every parent I know is making daily choices about what to do with their kids. So imagine if you're a low-income family, you have less choices than others. So it's even more important if you don't have a good internet connection, if you don't have somebody to entertain you, that you've got books. And this right here is a picture of actual kids who early on in COVID, we pivoted from working with the schools and the childcare centers and the clinics, although the clinics only stopped for 1 month and then they kept going, which was kind of remarkable. They still give out books and will child exams, but we knew we had to do something different. So we decided to start sending homes, mailing home books directly to homes. So these girls are some of the first books that we were able to mail directly to their homes. We asked them to give us their personal information so that we could do this, and asked them to send pictures. And it was remarkable. We got oodles of these pictures back like this, of these girls with their books, of boys with their books, of kids just so excited to have books at home. We've seen it in schools and in groups, but to have it on this one-on-one level was just really very remarkable for us. So the importance of access to books, if you haven't thought about this, here are some stats that are really kind of important. There are 30 million less words heard in low-income homes before kindergarten than in more affluent homes. And just think about that. It's because there isn't as much interaction between parents and kids. The parents might be working. They just may be too tired at the end of the night to get up and read a book. Time is one of our biggest obstacles. Families want to read to their kids. They know it's good. Nobody thinks that reading aloud is a bad thing to do. They just don't know how. They don't have confidence, or they don't have access to the books. Although 52% of parents, and this is across all income levels, say they do not read to their children under 12 at least once a day. Now that's a number we still want to push. BookSpring still has far to go to help remind parents that this is a good, easy way to bond with your child, to build vocabulary, to supplement their learning about the world. Books can be windows and mirrors and sliding glass doors, we like to say in this field. And just reading aloud together is such an amazing magic pill towards a really rich future life. And then here's kind of another startling statistic that 80% of programs that work with low-income kids don't have books to give out for daily home use. Some low-income schools don't let their kids take the library books home because they're so under-resourced and they need to keep those books at school. So we provide a really important part of the ecosystem of learning in our community. Now, I want to tell you how important Impact Austin's grant was for us. It was right after the beginning of COVID. We had proposed something. We weren't sure whether we were going to be able to do it or not. And y'all came back. Impact Austin came back with a $25,000 grant and even more than that money, which was totally impactful for us and gave us lots and lots of books and lots of resources. It gave us hope. We needed hope at that moment. So the spirit of Impact Austin and the spirit of that gift was as important, if not more at that time than money. And what it allowed us to do, what you all with Impact Austin and all of you watching who are thinking about becoming part of Impact Austin, you helped us deliver 252,000 books to 107,000 children since March 1st of 2020. That's since the beginning of COVID, we've done that much impact together. It just gives me chills to even think about that number. I kind of don't know how my staff did it, but they're amazing. We have an amazing staff. We have an amazing board. We have lots of volunteer opportunities. So our goal is to try to reach all the 80,000 children living in poverty in Central Texas with at least 3 books a year. So we did great in terms of our number of kids. We need to get more books. We always need more funding for books. We take donated books. We've got books going out through partners in Hays County. And these are some of the groups that we work with who I understand are also, many of them have been Impact Austin grantees. So we're all a big network working together to help support our entire community. So how can you help BookSpring? You can donate gently used children's books. If you want to make space, bring them on down to our offices at 2006 Greenbrook Parkway. You can find us on the web. Make a monthly recurring gift. Even a small amount makes a difference. Every $10 you give to BookSpring allows us to distribute 4 books. Volunteer in person or remotely. We have lots of digital reading out loud things. There's all of those volunteers are on our website, and we do have some in-person volunteering in small groups going on right now. And also tell doctors and teachers and the professionals that you work with other nonprofits that BookSpring is ready to help support them in their efforts to support families in need. So visit us on the website, and I want to make sure we have enough time for questions if anybody has any. So I'm going to stop sharing and say hello.
Got to get back unmuted before I start talking too much. All the things we get to learn in Zoom time. Well, so what questions are there? We can put them in the Q&A that's on the Zoom, or raise your hand, or if anybody wants to chime in and ask on camera. We'd love to answer any questions y'all have for Emily, or and learn more about BookSpring, or any questions that we can answer about Impact Austin and collective giving and the works that we're doing in Central Texas. Oh, Emily, that's a great one. Can you talk a little bit more about the diversity of the books that you offer?
Yes, definitely. Like many organizations in Austin, we are really looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion, and have been very conscious about it. But we started noticing many years ago that most of the kids that we serve, first of all, are speaking Spanish at home. So we made a decision a long time ago to provide Spanish language books or bilingual Spanish English books on request of our partners. So if our teacher said, if we were working with a bilingual English program, we would say, do you want Spanish books? And sometimes they would say, this child should have Spanish books because they speak Spanish at home, but this maybe Latina child maybe wants to speak English at home. So we would really rely on the knowledge of our partners to match those books. So we're a very heavily curated experience. And we've been working even harder through a community advisory council of parents to review all our books and reaching even deeper into suppliers. We're getting some books from India and South Africa now because it's hard to get really great diverse books in the States still from traditional publishers.
Wonderful. That's great. What about some of the digital volunteer opportunities?
Yes, so this is pretty exciting. So the other thing that we did to pivot at BookSpring, other than mailing books directly to home, which is something that only Dolly Parton did before we did. Dolly, gotta love Dolly. But nobody was doing it locally. So we filled that gap, is we wanted to start to distribute digital books online. So we were able to find a source of Creative Commons books, which allows us to give them out on the web with no password, no login. They're just right there. But we didn't really want to just slap them up there. So what we did is we created, kind of informed by a lot of my staff, are early childhood professionals. And so early childhood has a lot of theme-based curriculum. So we were like, why don't we base it on typical class and circle early childhood themes so that parents can integrate them into whatever childcare they're getting. And that went like gangbusters. We launched in August of last year, and within a month or two, we were getting about 8,000 hits on our website and 2,000 books downloaded per month of these great digital books. So now we have a whole library of about 200 digital books for ages 3 to 5 and 6 to 8. And they're just open access and they're easy to integrate. And the parents are saying, my kid is saying, I want more blue butterfly books, because we have a little intro in Spanish and English with a little blue morpho butterfly named BB, the butterfly BookSpring mascot. And I mean, my team didn't think of themselves as instructional technologists, but they do now.
Nice. Very cool. We had another question too about the work that y'all might do with local authors in the Austin area.
Absolutely. You know, we've had authors come and speak with us and come in. Some have been very generous with their books. Trevor Romaine has been awesome. And Chris Barton has been awesome. We have a new author on our board named David Rice. He is a wonderful Texas author of Heart-Shaped Cookies. And we are creating a new role called Author Ambassador of BookSpring. And so we're going to be announcing that David is our first author ambassador for the year. And we're going to do some cross-promotional things with his stuff. But authors have been incredibly generous. They've given us their books. They've just been really awesome. So we really love Texas and Austin authors.
Love it. There was one more question too about, I know you told us about the great digital offerings that you have, but is there a way for volunteers? You had said that you were doing some in-person volunteering and then some digital volunteering. Can you talk a little bit more about what the digital volunteer opportunities look like?
Exactly. I kind of didn't get to the point there. I'm sorry. It's the end of the day and I had a big grant. That's the life of an ED. The point is, those weekly themes, all those books that are in there, we would love to have people read those out loud on their phone, just on a Zoom meeting. And then you submit them to us and we put them on our YouTube channel, so that if a family doesn't have enough time to read out loud, they know that there's a good version that's integrated with this on there. So you can go in there, pull one of those books from the weekly themes, read it out loud, submit it through our website. It's through a Google form. You just, whatever form, movie form, whatever you can get off of your phone. It doesn't have to be fancy. So that's one of the digital volunteering opportunities. And then we have book sorting and book deliveries. And those are in small groups. We have a warehouse, and then you come in for about a 2-hour shift and you put stickers on and make sure that the board books are together and the chapter books, and you get training on it. So those are the two ones that are the main ones. There are some other ones that come up and go, but we're definitely still open to volunteers.
Love it. Thank you so much for that additional. And I'm assuming that the BookSpring website has got places to sign up for the volunteer opportunities, both in person and digitally,
Yep.
or virtually, I guess.
Volunteer. Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
And no,
Well, perfect.
you don't need a background check or anything for the digital volunteering or for the stuff in the warehouse. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I think we're going to have Risé and Kalí come back on and talk to us a little bit more about BookSpring. So I'm going to let Nicole work her magic behind the scenes. If y'all have any final thoughts, Risé or Kalí, anything that we maybe didn't get a chance to cover or talk about it, we'd love to hear from both of y'all.
What do you got, Kalí?
It's hard to say to anyone, any woman that I know, that they wouldn't enjoy being involved with Impact Austin or working with BookSpring. They're just two amazing organizations. If you are in the market for a philanthropic education, or if you're in the market to help children start that first step toward their education, you're in the right place.
I don't think I could have summed it up any better than that. I have to admit, it's tough. There's definitely growing pains when you grow up as a volunteer. You're so used to being the one that gets your hands dirty. It just seems so much more fulfilling. But let me tell you, there's nothing wrong with knowing that your hard-earned dollars definitely go to some excellent causes. And you guys, Impact Austin partners with so many amazing nonprofits. So it's not just a philanthropic education, it's an education into the nonprofit world that we are so lucky to live in here in Austin, Texas. I can't think of a better way to get such an amazing exposure to educational nonprofits, to nonprofits that help, our older adults, that help pets, that help, the community at large. We fund environmental things as well, but also DEI and equity efforts, which, as we know, is very important in this day and age. So, BookSpring speaks to a lot of those things too. So it's nice to know that there's also an organization, like I said, that is educationally based, but in some ways is doing more than just educating children. It's really bringing families together. It's exposing them to reading and to that bonding experience that Emily talked about. And you guys, in some small way, Impact Austin helped them do that. Impact Austin helped these children have these books, over 200,000 books. And kind of like Kalí said earlier, I could work my entire life. I could probably win the Powerball, but I don't know that I could do all of that work. And better yet, the nice part is knowing that I'm a part of an organization where I'm not alone. There's a lot of women like me, like Kalí, like Audra, who just believe this is a good thing, that we're doing good things, and that should keep going and growing. So come and join us. Come be a part of it. It's so much fun. It's not just about the donating of the dollars, but it's also about getting to know one another, having those good times, that glass of wine every now and then, or movie trivia coming up soon. So I can't think of a better reason to join. And I can honestly say this has been one of the best investments I've ever made.
Absolutely. Oh, ladies, you warm my heart. I love it. Risé, you took the words right out of my mouth. If anybody's interested in joining Impact Austin, we would love to have you. It's the most amazing group of women. And honestly, it's like, I feel so close to so many of them, and I've never even met them. I've met a couple of people, but just that just knowing that we're kind of in this together, even though we're still having to work together virtually, knowing that the impact that we're making in our community is so vast and so powerful. Even if we can't do it in person, at least we can do it face to face over Zoom, which feels, just as wonderful, and we don't have to be in traffic. But yes, please come join us at Impact Austin. We would love to have you. We will put how to join us in the chat. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I would love to hear from you. My email address is membership@impactaustin.org. I cannot thank Emily, Risé, and Kalí enough for spending some time with me this evening. What a treat. Thank you, ladies, for spreading the gospel, spreading the good news, dropping all the knowledge. So I think that's all we've got. And just thank you, everybody, for joining us and for spending a little bit of time learning more about BookSpring and ways to get involved in that organization and joining us at Impact Austin. And I hope you all have a great evening and enjoy some of the cooler weather.